Iniciamos con la sesión número 11. Vamos a recibir a Luis Sola, comisionado marítimo federal. El comisionado Luis Sola dará un discurso sobre el rol de la Comisión Marítima Federal en Estados Unidos en el desarrollo GNL en América Latina y el Caribe, destacando también los avances en infraestructura y regulación.
Good morning. I always like to be the first one. So, thanks to GNL Global Conference, special thanks to Kenya Bravo, and I hope to see everybody in Peru next year. My name is Luis Sola. I am a Federal Maritime Commissioner of the United States. President Trump appointed me in 2019, and I was confirmed by the United States Senate. I was nominated again just last month by President Biden. Let that sink in for you that know political situations in the United States. A pro-Trump, pro-America was nominated by a Democrat. Before that, I was a Florida Port Commissioner for 4 years. I have family ties here in Panama. I'm a ship's captain. I crossed the Panama Canal more than 100 times. I have the keys to the canal. I hope I never lose them. And I'm the honorary lead pilot. During COVID, I led Fact Finding 30. That was the United States federal investigation of how the COVID pandemic affected the cruise industry, how we brought the cruise industry down to shut down, and then how we were able to get it back up again. It was quite a task at the time. Lately, one of the things that we've been working on is the sanctioned flagged vessels that are used to support terrorists around the world. I believe you've probably seen a lot of things in the news about that. But to get more to the point of why we're all here, I've been one of the top advocates for zero carbon emissions and alternate marine fuels, such as LNG. I called upon President Biden to start an alternate marine fuels coalition with support from Department of Energy and Department of Transportation. As we all know, since we're here, that LNG can reduce carbon emissions by 20 to 30% in comparisons to normal fossil fuels. What I advocated for was that we would follow the same standards that they use in aviation. Last year, the United States government allocated $15 billion in grants for the aviation to change their fuels. And we didn't, as a maritime industry, we didn't get enough of that. Let's put it that way. So I'm really trying to get more money for the maritime fuels. What is the Federal Maritime Commission? So the Federal Maritime Commission, we are in charge of all commercial activities in maritime trade with the United States. What does that mean? That means every single port in the country that receives a ship coming from a foreign destination. That means every single ship calling on those ports. And it also means every cargo that they have coming in or going out of the ports. Every single one of those contracts has to be filed with the Federal Maritime Commission. Additionally, that's about 99% of what we do. But we also are in charge of every single cruise ship in the United States and every single passenger ticket, all commercial transactions. We have an Office of Enforcement, we have trade analysis, we have 5 federal courts that basically are underneath the Federal Maritime Commission, and the commissioners, such as myself, we serve as the final order. So in Latin America or Europe, we would kind of be like the Supreme Court, the Maritime Supreme Court. We work with regulators around the world, namely Europe and China. Last year, the Federal Maritime Commission oversaw 2 billion tons of cargo. Last year, we regulated $5 trillion of goods entering and leaving the United States. That represents 80% of global trade. The numbers are quite astonishing. And we are also trying to make sure that we have a competitive environment. So our jurisdiction is not just the United States. Our jurisdiction is any ship that is leaving any port destined for the United States. Also, any export leaving the United States going to a foreign destination. And that would include LNG. So let's get to why we're here. What's the current situation of LNG for the United States government? We've had an LNG pause. on new export licenses. And what that has done, it moved the United States from number 1 in the world export nation of LNG to number 2. We also see disruptions around the world because of war and conflict. The Russian-Ukraine conflict has caused major disruptions in shipping around the world, and so is the conflict that's going on in the Middle East. U.S. LNG exports hit 87 million metric tons in 2022, which was a record high. And the sky is the limit. We have a lot of infrastructure and a lot more export facilities being built in the United States, in Texas, Louisiana. LNG is, without question, going to be the maritime fuel of the future. The new builds that are on order right now, more than 50% of them are dual fueled that can take LNG. As part of my job, I get to meet global CEOs from around the world that wish to do business with the United States. And I'm very lucky to have the ability to ask them what keeps them up at night, what makes them worry. And what they tell me is they're worried about getting enough alternate fuels. In the United States, we only have 3 different locations for bunkering for these fuels. We can export 160,000 cubic meters, but we have trouble getting 5,000 cubic meters onto a ship for propulsion. So I think we could have a little bit of fun here. As you know, that in 20 days we have an election, so I wanted to talk a little bit what an America First agenda would look like towards LNG and what that would look like towards the maritime industry in first. So as far as the America First agenda, I'm probably the last man standing right now in government. That may change by the end of the year, but right now I'm the top trade advocate for that. So what we would have is we'd have expanded LNG facilities across all U.S. ports. We would have U.S. government subsidiaries for maritime fuels. And that would allow us to get to net carbon zero. Let me explain. We've already done that a couple times. So what we do is we'll take a traditional LNG, we'll mix it with a bio-LNG, and then what we get is a carbon score of 0. So we can basically get to net carbon zero. We have done this, and we can do this, but the only way we're going to do that is with government subsidiaries. The problem that we have is that LNG at this time, the bio-LNG is 10 times the amount as regular LNG. So when we mix it, we're just not commercially able yet. We can do it in a laboratory, we can do it in test runs, but we can't do it a lot. So for what I see is we're going to have, let's call them mixing facilities that I think that are going to come on in infrastructure that's going to be started in the United States because we're going to have government funding. But once these become more commercially viable, I believe that they're going to go to all sorts of maritime hubs, such as here. The America First agenda will also promote America First. And what I mean by that is that in the United States, we have cabotage laws. We call them the Jones Act. So the people that are going to be doing the bunkering and other businesses within the United States, not internationally, but in the United States, are going to be U.S. companies. That is something that we stress, and we also promote other countries to do their own as well. We are not promoting that the United States comes to a foreign country and takes over a certain market. We believe that those markets should be for those countries that are there. I want to be very clear on that. So right now, I believe that we have over 500, I just checked this last week, we have over 500 new LNG-powered ships that are expected to be delivered by 2026. 100% of the cruise ships that I see coming out that are above a certain category are going to be LNG powered. 95% of the car carriers are going to be LNG powered. So, and the one thing that we do that I was talking to, we have maybe 180 of the top economists in the world that work at the Federal Maritime Commission, and we also have some of the best maritime attorneys in the world. Is we also track prices. We track prices on cargo, we track prices on shipping, we track prices on a lot of different things. And what I believe And what our economists are telling us, that if we can, not we, if the world can be a more peaceful place and we didn't have these disruptions that we have in trade, I believe the price of LNG would more than double, is my personal prediction that I have on that. We just don't have the demand. The economy right now is down, and I believe that our biggest fear that we have is that Asia is kind of going into a recession that could drag the rest of the world down with us. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciated being here, and I hope to see you all in Peru next year.